People think being a paramedic is about patching people up, keeping a steady hand when everyone else is panicking. That's part of it, sure. But the truth? The real weight of the job isn't the blood, the crushed metal, or even the screams. It's the decisions. The ones you have to make fast, with no do-overs. And once you've made them, you live with them forever. That night started like any other shift. Jenna and I had been partners for 3 years. She was sharp, fast, the kind of medic who could intubate in a moving ambulance with potholes bouncing us around. I trusted her. She trusted me. Out here, you don't get to hesitate. Hesitation gets people killed. It was just after midnight when dispatch came over the radio. Unit 47. Respond to a 2-vehicle collision. Possible entrapment. Multiple victims. Route 17. Near mile marker 46.
Lot renforcement en route.
Jenna looked at me, already pulling on gloves. Here we go. Route 17 was notorious. A 2-lane stretch through dark woods. No lighting, sharp turns, black ice in the winter. I floored it, sirens tearing the night apart, the ambulance shaking as we hit 90. The farther we drove, the thinner the world felt, fewer houses, fewer lights, just black trees whipping past. We spotted it before we even slowed down. Headlights splayed across the road at impossible angles, the smell of gasoline sharp in the cold air. A sedan on its roof in the middle of the road, another SUV crushed nose first into the ditch. Shards of glass glittered like snow in the beams of our headlights. I slammed us into park and we moved. No hesitation. Check the SUV. I barked, grabbing the airway kit. Jenna sprinted across the asphalt as I ran toward the overturned sedan. The driver was a man, maybe mid-40s, hanging upside down in his seatbelt. His face was gray, lips tinged blue. Blood dripped steadily from his scalp onto the roof beneath him. His eyes flickered open when I shone the light in them. Pupils sluggish, pulse thready. Airway compromised. He needed intervention fast. But then I heard Jenna yell, "Got a kid!" I bolted across the road, boots sliding on shattered glass. In the front passenger seat of the SUV was a boy, maybe 12, chest pinned by the crushed frame of the door. His breathing was shallow, ribs rising unevenly. His eyelids fluttered when I touched his neck for a pulse weak, fading. Behind him, in the driver's seat, was a woman, his mother, judging by the way she clawed at my sleeve. Her leg was twisted, bone jutting at the wrong angle, but she didn't care about herself. "Please," she sobbed, voice raw. "Please save my son. Please, just he's all I have." I felt the weight of her grip like a chain. I looked at the boy, then back across the road toward the sedan, where the man was still bleeding out upside down. 2 critical patients. 2 medics. 1 ambulance. We'd trained for this. Triage, prioritize, act. But training scenarios never looked you in the eye and begged. Training scenarios didn't have children gasping like fish on dry land. Jenna's eyes met mine across the wreckage. She didn't need to say anything. The question was written all over her face. Who first? The night pressed in around us. The woods were silent. The only sounds the tick of broken glass under my boots and the hiss of coolant leaking onto the asphalt. My heart pounded so hard it drowned out the sirens still wailing behind us. This was it. This was the call that would split my life into before and after. I froze for a heartbeat, staring at the boy. His chest stuttered with every breath, ribs creaking like splintered wood. Kids crash hard, but they also crash fast. If his airway collapsed or he went into arrest, we'd lose him in minutes. Across the road, the man in the sedan moaned, weak but alive. Head injury, possible spinal involvement, definite internal bleed. He had a chance, but only if we moved soon. This is where textbooks fail you. The manuals say, assess, triage, stabilize, transport. But standing there, glass crunching under my knees, a mother's bloodied fingers digging into my jacket, none of it felt like protocol. It felt like Russian roulette with 2 chambers loaded. I leaned into Jenna. We can't split. We need to focus on one. She nodded, jaw clenched. Then call it. I looked back at the mother. She was sobbing, stroking her son's hair with a trembling hand, whispering to him in a language I didn't understand. His eyelids fluttered again, then stilled. Kid first, I said. We moved. Jenna slid the cervical collar around his neck while I cut through the crushed seatbelt, shards of plastic slicing at my gloves. The car groaned as we shifted his weight, metal scraping like nails on a chalkboard. Pulse weak. Thready? Jenna called, checking her watch. We need him out now. Adrenaline surged, sharpening everything. The hiss of leaking coolant. The distant thrum of approaching sirens. Fire department. Maybe cops. The boys' shallow breaths, each one a countdown. We braced ourselves and hauled. The SUV's frame resisted like a vice, but with a crowbar from the kit we pried just enough room to slide him free. He gasped, eyes rolling back, and for a second I thought we'd lost him. Bag him, I ordered. Jenna squeezed the ambu bag, forcing air into his lungs. I tore open an 4 kit, adrenaline shot ready. The boy's chest rose again. Faint, shaky, but he was still here. I looked up at the sedan. The man inside was barely moving now, his face ghost pale. Blood still dripped onto the roof in a steady rhythm, each drop a reminder that we'd left him hanging there. I swallowed hard. We need to move him next. But before we could even start, the boy's monitor beeped sharply. His pulse dropped. Oxygen levels plummeted. Shit, Jenna hissed. He's circling the drain. The mother screamed, begging us not to stop. Her hands clutched at my sleeve, her nails biting through the fabric. We had 1 kid crashing in front of us, and another patient bleeding out across the street. And for the second time that night, I had to make an impossible choice. The boy's vitals were tanking fast. The monitor screamed warnings in flat digital tones, each beep like a countdown clock. Jenna's hands worked furiously, squeezing the bag, but his chest barely rose. His airway was swelling. His ribs cracked from the impact, and we had seconds, not minutes, to act. I need to tube him, I said, snapping open the laryngoscope. My gloves were slick with blood and sweat, the plastic handle almost sliding out of my grip. Jenna nodded, already setting up suction. The mother's sobbing filled the SUV, a raw, animal sound. She was begging us in broken English, "Please, don't let him go." The boy gagged as I slid the blade past his tongue. For a split second, the view cleared, vocal cords, pale and trembling. I threaded the tube, inflated the cuff, and Jenna hooked up the bag. His chest lifted. Once, twice. The monitor flickered, heart rate stabilizing, oxygen creeping back up. We had him. I exhaled, only then realizing I'd been holding my breath. But across the road, the sedan groaned. The man inside jerked weakly, a muffled cry slipping from his lips. The sound carried across the asphalt, thin and desperate. "Shit," I muttered. "We're losing him." "Then go," Jenna snapped, locking eyes with me. "I've got the kid. Go." I grabbed another kit and sprinted back to the sedan. The car was a twisted coffin of steel and glass. The man's face was barely visible under the blood. His chest rose shallowly, each breath a rattle. I cut the seatbelt, but his weight didn't shift. Pinned, I braced my shoulder and shoved. Metal creaked but held. My arms shook with effort. The man's eyes fluttered open, unfocused. He tried to speak, but blood bubbled from his mouth. "Hang on," I muttered, grabbing the radio. "Dispatch, we need fire extraction now. Patient pinned, losing vitals." Static. No answer. Out here, coverage was spotty at best. I leaned closer, pressing my hand against his chest. Weak pulse. Dying in my hands. Behind me, the boy's monitor beeped again. A long, shrill tone. Jenna swore loudly, the kind of word you only use when you're out of options. I froze. Both of them were slipping. 2 patients, 2 dying, and only one of me to move between them. The man's eyes locked on mine for a second. Blood streamed from his scalp, lips trembling around words I couldn't catch. He wasn't begging. He wasn't even fighting. Just staring at me with the hollow knowledge that I wasn't going to get him out in time. And I realized he knew. He knew he was the one I'd chosen not to save first. The mother's screams tore through the night, mixing with the flat line of the monitor. My heart pounded. My hands shook. This wasn't triage anymore. This was damnation by choice. And whichever way I moved, someone was about to die. The boy's monitor shrieked a flat, piercing tone that cut through the night like a blade. I bolted back across the asphalt, nearly tripping on broken glass. Jenna was leaning over him, sweat running down her temples. "V-fib," she shouted. "He's crashing." I dropped to my knees, tore open the defib pads, and slapped them on his small chest. My hands moved on autopilot, analyze, charge, clear. The jolt lifted his body an inch off the crushed seat. The monitor stuttered. For a second, nothing. Then a weak rhythm crawled back onto the screen. He was still in the fight. But behind me, the sedan groaned again, metal shifting under its own weight. A sound like a sigh. I could almost feel the man inside slipping away with every passing second. "Go!" Jenna barked. "I've got him, just go." I hesitated. The boy's pulse was faint, but present. The man's might already be gone. My gut twisted as I sprinted back across the road, kneeling beside the crumpled sedan. The man's chest barely moved now. His lips were blue, eyes glassy. I pressed 2 fingers to his carotid thready, fading. He needed airway control, maybe a decompression. But I couldn't get him out. I tried anyway, ramming the crowbar between twisted metal. My arms shook, sweat pouring, but the frame wouldn't give. "Come on," I growled through clenched teeth. "Stay with me." For a heartbeat, his eyes focused on mine. Blood bubbled at his lips, his hand twitching weakly against the seatbelt. And in that moment, I knew he was asking me the same silent question the mother had screamed across the road. Why him and not me? I felt it like a weight on my chest. Behind me, the boy's monitor let out another alarm. Jenna yelled something I couldn't hear. The mother's cries rose higher, desperate, shaking the air. And right there, standing between 2 broken cars in the middle of Route 17, I realized I was split in half. Every move meant abandoning someone else. The man's pulse fluttered once, then vanished under my fingertips. His chest sank and didn't rise again. Damn it! I slammed my fist against the roof, the sound dull against twisted steel. My throat burned. I checked again, hoping, praying for a flicker. Nothing. I stayed with him for a moment, whispering an apology he couldn't hear, before forcing myself to turn back. The boy was still alive, barely. Jenna was bagging him, sweat dripping onto her gloves, the mother clutching his hand and begging him to breathe. And I knew in that moment that my choice was final. I had saved the boy, and I had let the man die. We loaded the boy into the rig, Jenna riding in back, the mother clutching his hand. I took the wheel, sirens screaming, red and white lights tearing through the empty highway. My knuckles were white on the steering wheel, sweat dripping into my eyes, but all I could see was the man's face. The way his pupils widened when he realized I wasn't coming back. The way his lips tried to form words I never heard. At the hospital, they rushed the boy into trauma. Nurses and doctors swarmed him, the mother screaming prayers in the hallway. Jenna slumped against the wall, eyes hollow, mask hanging loose around her neck. I stood there useless, hands shaking, blood dried on my gloves. Half an hour later, a surgeon came out, pulling down his cap. "He's stable," he said. "We've got a long road, but he's alive." The mother collapsed to her knees, sobbing, kissing my hand like I'd performed a miracle. I couldn't look her in the eye, because all I could see was the other set of eyes, the ones that would never close again. Back at the station, the paperwork felt endless. 2 patients, 1 deceased on scene, 1 transported critical, stabilized at hospital. The words were clean, clinical. They didn't capture the weight. They didn't show the moment when I chose who got to live. And that's what people don't understand about this job. It's not the blood or the screams that haunt you. It's the choices, the ones that follow you home, sit at your kitchen table, crawl into bed with you at night. I saved a boy. I let a man die. And no matter how many more shifts I pull, no matter how many more lives I touch, I'll never stop hearing that mother's screams or feeling the silence of the man across the road. Thanks for listening. That's how this story ended, with a life saved, another lost, and a choice that will haunt me forever. Have you ever had to make a decision you can't take back? Share your story in the comments. Someone out there needs to hear it. And if this one hit you, don't forget to like and subscribe. More real stories, raw, haunting, and unforgettable, are coming soon.